Have you ever wondered how faith and action are intertwined in our spiritual journey? This is a question that the book of James, a significant text in the biblical canon, addresses with great depth. In our contemporary world, where faith is often questioned or overlooked, the book of James serves as a profound reminder of its enduring relevance. At the heart of this book is the central theme of faith in action. James, the author, encourages believers not to merely profess their faith, but to live it out in their everyday lives. He underscores the idea that faith, without deeds to demonstrate it, is lifeless and hollow. James's teachings resonate with us today, urging us to question and reflect upon our own faith. Are we truly living out our beliefs, or are they simply words we utter? These are the questions that the book of James compels us to ask ourselves. As we delve into the book of James, let's ponder on the profound connection between faith and deeds. Picture a life filled with trials and temptations. How would you respond? The book of James, in its opening chapter, provides us with rich insights on this very question. James encourages us to find joy in our trials. It may seem counterintuitive, yet in enduring these trials we forge a steadfastness in our faith. This steadfastness, when allowed to fully develop, leads us to spiritual maturity and completeness. In moments of uncertainty, James urges us to seek wisdom from God, who gives generously and without reproach. But we must ask in faith without any doubt, for a doubting mind is as unstable as the waves of the sea. When it comes to temptation, James clarifies that it is not God who tempts us, but our own desires. These desires, when conceived, give birth to sin, and when fully grown, bring forth death. So, through trials and temptations, our faith is not only tested, but it is strengthened and matured. How often do we find a disconnect between what we profess and what we practice? In James chapter 2, this question resonates deeply. The essence of this chapter is the harmonious interplay between faith and deeds. James eloquently emphasizes that faith without deeds is like a body without a spirit, lifeless and void. He posits that our faith should not be mere words or passive belief, but must be accompanied by action, deeds that reflect our faith. It's not enough to merely profess our faith. Our actions must align with what we say we believe. Furthermore, James underscores the importance of impartiality in our deeds. He challenges us to treat all people equally, irrespective of their social, economic, or racial backgrounds. It's a call to practice the golden rule, treating others as we would like to be treated. Our actions, therefore, become a reflection of our faith. It's a potent reminder that faith is not just about believing, but about living out those beliefs every single day. Have you ever considered the power of your words? In the 3rd chapter of the book of James, we find a profound exploration of the might and influence of the tongue. James compares the tongue to a small rudder that steers a large ship, or a small bit in a horse's mouth that can control the animal's entire body. Our words, like a small spark, have the potential to ignite a great forest fire, causing immense damage. But on the flip side, they also have the ability to spread love, encouragement, and wisdom. James urges us to tame our tongues, to use our words wisely, and to refrain from boasting and hypocrisy. He also emphasizes the importance of wisdom that comes from heaven. Pure, peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial, and sincere. This wisdom can guide our words and actions, leading us towards a life of righteousness. Indeed, a small spark can set an entire forest on fire. What does it truly mean to submit oneself to God? Let's delve into the depths of James chapter 4 to find out. The chapter begins with a profound question. What causes fights and quarrels among you? The answer, it suggests, is not external, but rather internal. It is our own desires, our own passions that wage war within us. We want what we don't have, and we don't get what we want because we don't ask. And when we do ask, we don't receive because we ask with wrong motives, that we may spend what we get on our pleasures. But what if we shift our focus from our desires to God's desires? This is where submission comes in. James urges us to submit ourselves to God. But what does this submission look like? It's not a passive acceptance of fate, but rather an active, conscious choice to yield to God's authority and will. It's about acknowledging that God's ways are higher than our ways, and His thoughts higher than our thoughts. And the result of this submission, a promise that if we draw near to God, He will draw near to us. If we resist the devil, he will flee from us. This is the transformative power of submission, but there's more. James also warns us against judging our brothers and sisters. When we judge others, we are not submitting to God but setting ourselves up as lawgivers. But there is only one lawgiver and judge, the one who is able to save and destroy. So, let us humble ourselves before God. Let us turn our laughter to mourning and our joy to gloom. For God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble, and when we humble ourselves before the Lord, He will lift us up. Submission to God, therefore, is the key to overcoming worldly desires and conflicts. It is the path to peace, joy, and true fulfillment. It is the journey towards becoming the people God designed us to be. How do we find patience in the midst of suffering? This question, deeply rooted in human existence, is addressed in James chapter 5. The book of James, often known as the Manual for Christian Living, provides a profound answer. It tells us that patience is not just a virtue, it is the very essence of faith. It is the courage to endure, to persevere, even when the storm is at its fiercest. The chapter begins with a call to patience. It does not sugarcoat suffering or promise an easy way out. Instead, it recognizes the reality of pain and hardship, and it encourages us to stand firm in the face of them. It reminds us that just as a farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, we too must wait, with patience and fortitude, for the trials of life to bear their precious fruit, the fruit of endurance, character, and hope. But patience, as James makes clear, is not a solitary pursuit. It is tied to the power of prayer. When we are suffering, we are not alone. We are invited to bring our pain, our struggles, our questions before God in prayer. And there, in that sacred space, we find a God who listens, who cares, who responds. We find a God who gives generously and without finding fault, who strengthens us in our weakness and comforts us in our sorrow. Lastly, James emphasizes our responsibility to help others in their spiritual journey. We are called to care for one another, to help each other stay on the path of faith, to bring back those who have wandered away. We are called to be agents of healing, of restoration, of hope. So, how do we find patience in the midst of suffering? We find it in faith that endures, in prayer that strengthens, in love that heals. Indeed, patience, prayer, and caring for others are the essence of a believer's life.